Good morning. I would like to share my testimony this morning. I've never shared it before. I've never been up on stage before, so it's a lot harder than it looks. I'm going to go through a little bit through grade school, middle school, high school, my early 20s, right up to the point when I turned 26 years old. We're going to the date September 9th, 1991, early Monday morning. So this is all totally 100% about what God did for me. I mean, so I'm out of the picture. This is what God did for me. And I would like to start off with this little word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father who art in heaven, Father, first and foremost, I just want to tell you that I love you. Father, thank you for giving me a testimony that I'm able to share. Thank you for giving me the privilege and the honor to be up on the stage. Father, I pray that you give me peace in the middle of my anxiety. Please articulate these words that they glorify you, Father. Just take me out of the picture. But nevertheless, your will be done, not mine. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. I guess whenever I was born, I had a little rough time there, I guess. When I was 1 year old, I drowned, and it would be the first of 3 times in my lifetime that I've drowned. When I was 2 years old, my parents got a divorce. My brother died, and I was born in Cleveland. We moved to Burleson. I guess, in grade school, when I was 3 years old, I was in a bad car wreck. I went through the windshield of a car, and it crushed the whole front of my head. And my head is glued back together because they couldn't put a steel plate in because I was 3 years old. I was too young. So they glued my head back together. Moved to Burleson. My mom, now I got a stepdad. I don't know whether he loved me or he didn't. That's, only the Lord knows. But the way I was raised, it seemed like maybe he didn't, or he just didn't know how to show love. But my whole life through grade school was I was physically abused and mentally abused. Mental abuse is really bad. I mean, it never stops. At least physical abuse, there's a point when it stops, but mental abuse, it never stops. So I had a plan, when my mom and dad got a divorce, I never got to see my dad's side of the family. My dad passed away when I was 10 years old. So I'd planned on living with him when I was 12, but, that didn't happen. I started experimenting with tobacco at the age of 12, when I got in middle school. I guess at the age of 14, I started experimenting with marijuana and drinking beer. I would have to say at the age of 15, I would be considered an alcoholic. When I turned 16 years old, I'm now in high school, and I got my first DWI, driving while intoxicated. It would be my first of 4 DWIs that I got before the age of 23. Each one of those is a different story that I could go into. There's a lot that the Lord's done for me, but this story is straight to September 9th, 1991. Anyway, so now I'm probably 19 years old. Now I'm hooked on cigarettes, chewing tobacco, alcohol, and every type of drug there is. When I was 20 years old, I caught hepatitis. It was so bad that it almost killed me. My mom took me to the doctor because at the time I was in such good shape and everything that by the time the hepatitis hit me, I was almost dead. And So she took me to the doctor. They did blood work, and the doctor told my mom, he said that your son has basically destroyed his liver. You need to take him to the hospital, and they need to check and see the extent of the damage. Well, I talked my mom out of it. I moved in with her, and for 3 months I was sick with hepatitis. I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep nothing down. But the whole time I had hepatitis, I had friends bringing me beer by. I could drink beer, but I can't eat food. And I probably was doing drugs. I don't remember that. And tobacco. Tobacco is right there with the beer and the drugs and tobacco. All three go together. I smoked cigarettes during the day while I got drunk every day. And when I slept, I couldn't sleep without chewing tobacco in my mouth. So I had nicotine going 24 hours a day through my body. Now, like I said, I mentioned the 4 DWIs. I'm in my early 20s, and I don't know if I was a different type of drug addict or alcoholic, but what I did was I would go camping. I would take my dog, me and my dog, and I'd go fishing, and I would drink alone, and I would do drugs alone. I was happy. It took me to a different place, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I guess in my mid-20s, during this whole time, I was waking up sick. I was going to bed sick. I don't know if it's too much, not enough. Who knows? That's a fine balance. And to give you a little insight to an addict's mind, an alcoholic's mind, a man hooked on tobacco, is no matter how much you have, you're constantly calculating on how long it will last you. When can you get it again? And so there's no rest. There's no rest in this. This went through all my 20s, man. Waking up sick, going to bed sick. So now I'm going to the bars. I'm closing the bars down. I started going to the bars because that's where the women was, and so all part of that lifestyle. That's just what I did all through my 20s. It was horrible. Then, and I don't remember why, but after I got over the hepatitis and stuff, I moved out into a trailer house in Burleson. And it became the party house. I would have groups of people come by all the time, and I would party with this group. That group would be wasted. They would leave. Another group would come in. It was just a nonstop party my whole life. And I went to bed sick. I woke up sick. That was my life. Okay, for some reason, I don't know why, I can't remember. You'll have to bear with me on all this. I don't know the exact dates and stuff. The only date that I am sure of is September 9th, 1991. Well, September 9th, 1991, I come home to my mom's house. I walk down the hallway. I feel different. Feels like a vice is on my chest. Like something is squeezing. I can't hardly breathe. It's like something's on my chest. I can't breathe. I'm walking. My left arm goes numb, and it's tingling. It's numb. My breathing is labored. I can't breathe. I go into my room. I start sweating real bad. I lay down, and right when I got in bed, I felt my heart doing things, and I was like, I'm having a heart attack. And I thought to myself, I said, man, I've got to tell my mom to call 911, and I got to tell her to take me from the hospital straight to a rehab. I got to go from a hospital to a rehab. Hospital, rehab. If I don't, I won't go. So I got up out of bed. I walked around. I put my hand on the door. I seen the light on under my door. I knew my mom was up. put my hand on the door. And I thought to myself, I said, if this is living, I don't want to live anymore. So I turned around, I walked back to my bed, and I laid down, and I laid down to die. And, I was like, man, this is life. This is what everybody's living right here. This is it. So I laid there, and I heard a voice. And the voice said, give it to me. I'd never heard the voice before, but it sounded familiar. And then the voice said again, give it to me. You want to go to something man-made to get rid of something man-made. Give it to me. I don't know if I was atheist or what. I had friends that were Christians. I didn't care what anybody did, Live and let live, was my motto. But I knew that what I just heard, I knew there was going to be a conversation that I would not die until this conversation was over. I looked up and I said, if you really are God and you do exist and you love me, I will give it to you. And I named them. I named it. I said, I give you the drugs. And when I named it, my body stiffened up so tight, and I was squeezed from the top of my head all the way slowly down my body to the point of that it physically hurt. It went out my feet. I named the alcohol. I said, I give you the alcohol. Same thing happened. My arm slapped beside my body. A squeezing feeling went from the top of my head down through my body. I named the tobacco. Same thing. Squeezed from the top of my head all the way out my feet. And the only way I can describe it is a wet wash rag. You take that wet wash rag and you squeeze it like that. That's what happened to me. After this, I felt invisible. I felt like I may have been levitated off the bed. I was invisible. I was so light. And then I can't really describe it. But I seen like a tunnel that appeared. It was an invisible tunnel, but I could see it. And I heard every angel in heaven sing. I heard them. The singing started fading out. And the Lord told me, he said, you now have a protective realm about you. stay within your realm. And it was black. My room turned black. I'm not saying there was a bright light. I can't explain. I can only tell you what happened. And so it was black. So of course, I got on my knees. I prayed and cried. Well, that night I went to sleep. The next morning I woke up. This is the difference, though. My whole life I lived. I never went to sleep before. I passed out. I never woke up. I always came to somewhere. So this was a big difference. Whenever I got up the next morning, I looked at my bed. I looked up at my ceiling. Everything was made brand new. I kept touching myself. I kept touching my hands. And I was touching myself, and I kept walking. I walked by my bed, and I put my hands along my bed, and I remember thinking, this is a bed. My wood post to my bed, this is a wood post, and walked down the hallway. Everything was new. I was looking at everything. And the only way I can describe this is I was in the third person. And the only way, and trust me, I've given this so much thought. The best way to describe it is I was like in my mother's womb. I was in her belly, and there's no safer place to be, but you can see out and see everybody. You hear everything, you see everything, and you're being taught what is what, But in the safety of your mother's womb is how I felt. I was in the third person. I went through that next morning. It was Monday morning. My ride came to pick me up for work. And he's a guy that I did drugs with. I went to bars with and smoked, drank with. And he's talking and everything. We're going to work, and I'm not listening to what he's saying. I'm still trying to think, what happened that night. And he's talking and everything. And I'm answering him, but I'm like watching me answer. I'm like in the third person. He asked me to hand him some cigarettes out of the glove box. I grabbed the cigarettes. I looked at the cigarettes, and I just looked at them. I was like, this is cigarettes. I don't know nothing about it, but this is cigarettes. And I handed it to him. Well, he must have noticed something strange because I'm looking at my hands, touching my hands, and I think he thought I was on like a hallucinogenic drugs or something. And he said, Johnny. He said, hey. And I looked over, and he jumped back up against his door, and he goes, man, they're going to know you're on something. He goes, what did you take? And I just sat there, and I kept looking forward, but he won't shut up. He keeps, what did you take? They're going to know you're on something, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Tim, I got saved by Jesus Christ last night. So, then he's like, oh, yeah, man, I need to start going to church and all this and everything. I don't remember the rest of that. I told Pastor that I believe in my heart. I know we sin every day. I truly believe in my heart you can go a day without sin. I even would go as far as to say you can go a week without sin. I know when I was saved, I was made new. I was taught what everything was again. Everything looked familiar, but I didn't know nothing about it. Okay, I have to go a little bit further. Okay, now we're going to fast forward about 20, 25 years. I'm in Japan. I'm getting ready to move back to America. I haven't had a physical or nothing. I just don't go to doctors that much. So So I thought, you know what? I had my first son, Waylon. I said, I need to check myself. I need to be healthy for my son. So I went to the doctor. I said, doctor, can you please, run every test you got on me, but run a lot of tests on my liver because I've had hepatitis. And I almost died from it. It's damaged. And I really want you to check and see the extent of the damage. So they called me back into the office when the tests were done. I went back to the doctor, and I sat down, and he said, okay. He said, you seem to be really healthy, Mr. Evans. And I said, really? I said, but my main concern is about my liver. I had hepatitis. And he said, you've never had hepatitis. I said, yep. I almost died from it. I had hepatitis. He said, nope. You've never had hepatitis because your blood is scarred. If you had hepatitis, you can't donate blood. Your blood is not scarred. You're healthy as a horse. You've never had hepatitis. And so I had to tell him my story. I said, man, I had hepatitis, almost died from it. I got saved by Jesus Christ. And when he healed me, I said, he healed my whole body. The doctor kind of looked at me, and I think he was like, next. I don't think he really was listening to what I said. He didn't believe me. And so not only did I get saved September 9th, 1991, but the Lord healed my body. So thank you.